The myth that a woman can save a man from his own emptiness. Canwell says this way of thinking just completely sabotages any chance at real stability or attraction. Okay, so first, what even is loneliness? Canwell says it's a psychological void. It's a sign you're lacking your own purpose, your own direction. You see, you just can't outsource your emotional foundation to someone else. She can't build your identity for you. That's your job. You've got to build that unshakable inner frame yourself. Second, when you're looking for a woman to be your savior, well, that creates this really desperate scarcity mindset. And when you're desperate, you start ignoring huge incompatibilities. You mistake any attention for a real connection. And honestly, that's when guys make these massive life mistakes, like marrying someone just because they're terrified of being alone. And finally, the solution here is pretty clear. A man has to heal himself before choosing a partner. Attraction, real attraction, it grows from stability and self-respect. So when you can operate from a place of calm, real discernment, a relationship stops being your medication. Instead, it becomes a powerful choice based on strength. Because at the end of the day, no woman can save you from loneliness. The only person who can fix it is the man you become when you finally face yourself.
And we're jumping right into the core structural issue outlined in this philosophy. It's all about the architecture of a man's inner frame. The central unyielding premise here is that no external partner, no woman, can cure a man's loneliness.
Right.
And this directly confronts that great cultural fiction we've all consumed since we were kids, right?
The whole "you complete me" narrative.
Exactly. The idea that romantic salvation is the cure for, existential dread.
That distinction is everything. We're not talking about lacking a date for Friday night. We are talking about a fundamental structural deficit. So we need to explore that central conflict. Is loneliness an external shortage? If you just meet enough people, does the void go away?
Or is it deeper?
Or is it a deep internal architectural problem that requires, self-reconstruction before connection is even possible?
And the sources say it's definitively the latter. The philosophy explicitly defines loneliness in this context, not just a lack of emotional support.
Or not just an inconvenience.
No, it is a psychological void, an internal wound. Think of it like a house built without a foundation.
Okay.
Because this emptiness is structural. It's internal, no external relationship. I don't care how loving or passionate, it can't dissolve it. You can't fill a void in your soul with someone else's presence.
I can see the logic, but let's press on this. If we accept that premise, that it's a psychological void, aren't we being a little too tough on men who are just seeking a healthy human connection?
That's a crucial distinction to make.
Where do the sources draw that line between a healthy desire for intimacy and this destructive outsourcing?
So healthy connection adds to an already solid structure. Outsourcing tries to use the partner as the foundation. The sources argue that this kind of loneliness isn't really about lacking a woman, it's a symptom.
A symptom of what?
A symptom of lacking purpose, direction, and self-generated meaning. It's an issue of identity, of self-sufficiency. If you don't have a mission, if you don't know what you stand for, then her opinion, her validation,
Her presence
becomes your stand, it becomes your purpose.
That makes perfect sense. If your identity is a blank canvas, you're essentially forcing her to paint it for you. So the foundational truth then becomes, a partner can offer companionship, joy, intimacy, but she is fundamentally incapable of rebuilding the structure of your identity. That's a solo project.
Exactly. And if you try to make her responsible for your internal stability, you are creating a recipe for disaster. This is the simple, the brutal takeaway from all this. You cannot outsource your emotional foundation to someone else.
And if you try,
you are guaranteeing a state of perpetual dependency and just inherent instability in the relationship.
And that dependency, that leads us directly into this cultural trap the sources call the illusion of salvation. It's this pervasive belief, fueled by decades of romantic comedies and hero stories.
Yeah.
That the right woman will save them from themselves and finally cure their internal emptiness.
Right.
Why is placing that burden on a woman so toxic?
Because it immediately transforms the relationship into a transaction. It's not partnership anymore. The man places an impossible weight on her shoulders. He doesn't see her as an equal.
He sees her as what?
He sees her as a solution, a walking, talking antidepressant. He's looking for escape from himself and his problems, not genuine love.
Not a shared life.
No. And no person, regardless of how much they love you, can sustain being the sole architect of your happiness. It's just not possible.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because this mindset, this dependency, it actively sabotages attraction. It destroys stability. The man is relying on her for his emotional completion, which then manifests as this desperate, clingy behavior. It's a paradox, isn't it?
It's a total paradox.
The more he needs her to survive, the less attractive he becomes, and he ends up destroying the very bond he's trying to secure.
It creates a feedback loop of neediness. And sometimes the situation is far worse. It gives rise to what the sources call the emotional mirage.
The emotional mirage. Okay.
This happens when a man who's suffering from this internal void starts dating someone, stunning or highly successful or genuinely admirable. You might think that external validation would help, but it often just intensifies the loneliness.
I can see why. The contrast must be absolutely jarring. The more accomplished or appealing she is externally,
The more he feels his own emptiness.
right, the more acutely he feels his own internal void and his lack of direction.
Precisely. The gulf between her external appeal and his internal fracture, it magnifies the pain. He becomes terrified of losing her because, in his mind, she is the only thing keeping him afloat.
So he's not appreciating it.
No, he's anxiously guarding his lifeline. The anxiety about rejection is overwhelming because he has outsourced his emotional survival to her.
When a man is operating from that deep internal wound, the psychological void, the desperation it creates, it puts him in a powerful scarcity mindset. And that just warps every single interaction and choice he makes.
He's not vetting potential partners at that point.
No, he's just trying to acquire a resource. The resource is attention.
He is metaphorically starving. And when you are starving, your judgment just fails you. In this state of scarcity, the consequences are predictable and destructive. He drastically lowers his standards.
Right.
He tolerates clear disrespect. He rationalizes severe incompatibilities. And he clings desperately to anyone who offers even minimal attention.
And the sources are incredibly direct about this. They say desperation's the fastest way to destroy attraction. You can't be the prize if you are acting like a beggar.
And this scarcity mindset leads directly to what they call distorted judgment. Loneliness essentially fogs a man's perception. The intense, desperate desire to avoid being alone just overrides his reason and clarity.
So he sees what he wants to see.
He sees what he needs to see to get that temporary relief, not what is actually there.
So the analytical part of his brain is just completely compromised. Can you give us some practical examples of that distortion? How does it show up?
Well, it happens when he misreads blatant red flags as mere quirks. He might see a woman's emotional volatility or chaotic life and call it passion.
Oh, I've seen that.
He substitutes temporary attention for the necessary long-term foundations of compatibility and shared values. He's so focused on avoiding the painful silence of his apartment that he will invite chaos into his life just for the noise.
That's a serious indictment of decision-making under stress. But what happens when that stress is removed? When the perspective shifts?
That's where the sources use this great analogy of the New York shift. Imagine a man living in a small, isolated town feeling desperate. He meets one woman, she becomes his entire universe, right? He's in total scarcity mode.
Okay.
Then he moves to a vibrant, dynamic environment, a New York full of energy, social opportunities, potential for professional growth. Suddenly, the illusions created by his loneliness, they start to dissolve.
And it's not necessarily about dating more people. It's about having internal options.
Yeah.
Purpose, friends, career. Things that make him less reliant on that one external source.
Exactly. When those options appear, the desperate clinging stops. He starts evaluating people through a much clearer, less fearful lens. He realizes he doesn't have to settle for someone who tolerates him. He can choose someone who aligns with him. Scarcity creates illusions. Internal abundance creates clarity.
But if that clarity doesn't arrive before commitment is made, the consequences move from just awkward dating to catastrophic life decisions. Let's talk about the danger of the vulnerable commitment. The sources warn that during his loneliest phase, a man is at the absolute highest risk of making irreversible decisions.
This is the crux of the warning. This is where it gets really serious. Why do men marry the wrong woman? According to this philosophy, loneliness is the single greatest reason. It's not a lack of choice. It's a profound lack of inner strength at a critical moment.
Because the emotions are mislabeled. Loneliness, it masquerades as deep, profound love.
Yes.
Temporary relief from solitude masquerades as a true, lifelong connection. And that suffocating fear of being alone that masquerades as selfless devotion.
The marriage is tragically a contract signed during emotional weakness. The foundation isn't love or a shared vision. The foundation is fear, and fear is the most unstable ground you could possibly build a life on.
And we're not just talking about an unhappy life. We're talking about severe long-term impact. These poor choices, driven by desperation, often result in marriages that destroy not just emotional peace, but critically, finances and stability,
For decades.
with consequences that the sources clearly state can last for decades, impacting children, careers, everything.
The damage lingers because the man wasn't choosing a partner. He was acquiring a shield against his own emptiness. What's especially insightful here is the concept they call revisionist memory. Many men, even those who eventually settle into stable relationships, often rewrite their own past.
They romanticize the origin story. They convince themselves their partner rescued them from a dark time, making it all sound destined.
When in reality, the relationship simply started because the woman was available at the precise moment the man was at his weakest and most desperate. The narrative of being saved is comforting, sure, but it obscures the fact that the relationship was born of necessity, not clear-eyed choice.
Which brings us to the necessary and much more difficult solution: the need for healing before choosing. If that internal frame is built on stability and purpose and self-respect, attraction follows. A man has to commit to healing himself before selecting a partner.
Or he'll forever be operating from a place of deficit. The solution has to be structural. It means building the inner frame, that unshakable center that operates independently of external validation. It's not about bench pressing more. It's about holding your emotional center when the world around you changes.
And it requires achieving what the sources call calm discernment, operating from reason, from logic, not emotional panic and neediness. What does that actually look like?
It means consciously choosing from wholeness. When you are whole on your own, you enter a relationship to share your life, not to complete it. You're adding value, not seeking subtraction of pain. This also involves the difficult but essential task of guarding the gates.
Guarding the gates.
When a man is at his weakest emotionally, he must exercise the most stringent self-control to prevent those hasty decisions from becoming decades-long liabilities.
It's preventative medicine for the soul and for the wallet. But for men who are navigating loneliness right now, the sources do offer some practical guidance. They call it dating without delusion. It is healthy to date, to connect, to enjoy intimacy while you're working on yourself, as long as you maintain strict honesty with yourself. You must never lie to yourself that any woman is your savior.
She can and should add immense joy and companionship to your life. But she cannot and will not build your life for you. That responsibility is non-transferable, and the attempt to transfer it is the root of this entire problem.
The core message here is summarized perfectly by the philosophy we explored today. The true bottom line is simple. No woman can cure your loneliness. Only you can do that by addressing the void within.
And the essential final sentence from these sources is really the ultimate call to action. It says, no woman can save you from loneliness because the only person who can save you is the man you become when you face yourself fully and rebuild from within.
So if loneliness won't directly ruin your career or your finances, but choosing the wrong partner under the influence of that loneliness will absolutely destroy them, what essential structure must you build this week? What do you need to do to ensure your future stability is built on clarity and choice, not on fear? Reflect on where you might be outsourcing your own emotional foundation. That's something worth diving deep into this week.